The fire crackles softly in the distance. Outside, a breeze stirs the leaves like a lullaby in an ancient tongue. And here, in this gentle stillness, we travel backward in time, not to wars or kings, but to something far quieter, the strange, forgotten world of ancient medicine. Let your body sink into comfort. Let your breath slow. Tonight, we begin our journey where healing once meant bleeding. Main story. Approximately 900 words, the candlelight flickers across the stone walls of an old healing room. A table rests in the center, worn from years of use. On its surface, cloth bandages, brass bowls, and a row of delicate, glimmering tools. There is no hum of machines, no sterile white coats, just the gentle presence of a healer and the deeply rooted traditions of ancient knowledge. For thousands of years, the human body was thought to be governed by four sacred fluids: the humors, blood, phlegm, black bile, yellow bile. They were more than bodily substances. They were the key to life, to mood, to balance. If one grew too strong, illness would follow. And so, to restore health, one must rebalance them. And how best to do that? By letting a little blood flow free. This was bloodletting, a practice as old as recorded history. In the temples of ancient Egypt, physicians carefully studied scrolls that linked each part of the body to a spirit, a season, a star. If you had a fever, it was not just a symptom, it was the sign of an elemental imbalance. So the healer would choose a vein, perhaps in the forearm, or behind the ear, and, with a practiced hand, open it just slightly. A slow stream of crimson would begin to fill the bowl. In Greece, Hippocrates, the great mind behind so much ancient medical thought, believed in the art of balance, not just in blood, but in the world itself. The seasons, the wines, the food you ate. When the body fell out of rhythm with nature, sickness followed. And so, the solution was elegant in its simplicity: release some blood and restore the music of the body. The Romans brought precision to the ritual. Galen, one of the most influential physicians of all time, recorded meticulous guides on when, where, and how to let blood. The vein on the right arm, he wrote, for sadness; the ankle vein, for fevers; the temple, for madness. Every cut was intentional. Every drop was a decision. In medieval Europe, the barber's pole was red and white for a reason: a twist of blood and bandages. Barbers were not just hair cutters, they were surgeons. And in the quiet mornings of village life, a man might come in for a shave and leave with his blood freshly drawn. But bloodletting wasn't always done with a blade. Sometimes, nature offered her own tiny surgeons, leeches, small, soft, and strangely elegant in the water. Leeches were prized across the ancient world. In Indian Ayurveda, they were believed to draw out bad blood and restore harmony. In Chinese medicine, they were applied to points of energy, guiding qi and blood flow in the most gentle way. And by the 18th and 19th centuries in Europe, leeches were used for nearly everything from headaches to high blood pressure. From gout to melancholy, doctors would place a few leeches on the patient's skin, often on the temple, the neck, or behind the ear. The leech would bite, its saliva laced with a natural anticoagulant that made the blood flow smoothly. Then it would feed slowly, silently, until it grew full and fell away. There's a strange, sleepy image in that, isn't there? A patient lying still on a velvet couch, the room quiet, a glass jar of leeches sitting beside a clock that ticks in soft rhythm. No urgency, no rush, just time and patience. Some women even carried leeches in ornate containers, ready for use. If they felt faint or flushed, leech jars became a fashionable symbol in certain circles. Strange, yes, but also strangely peaceful. You see, for all the strangeness of bloodletting, it was done not out of cruelty, but care. People truly believed in the wisdom of the body's rivers. And by gently releasing the excess, they believed they were guiding the body back to calm waters. Of course, science has moved on. We know now the dangers of removing too much blood. But back then, it was done with purpose, with belief, with quiet hope. And maybe, just maybe, the sound of that old room, the bowl being set down, the whispered words of reassurance, the slow drip of healing holds a kind of comfort that modern machines cannot replicate. So let yourself drift, as if the weight of the day were being drawn out slowly, like the excess humors once believed to cloud the mind. The fire is low, the night stretches long, and our journey into forgotten healing has just begun. The air is still now, like the hush before a gentle rain. You are wrapped in silence, resting at the edge of time, where the distant past softens into dream. Tonight, we explore the salves and potions of old, where healers reach not for pills, but for petals, for honey, even for rot. Strange as it may sound, these odd remedies held the hope of healing. Close your eyes, and let the world grow dim, as we step inside the dusty apothecaries of ancient medicine. Main story. Approximately 900 words picture a battlefield in ancient Egypt. The clash of bronze is over, and night has fallen. The wounded lie still, some moaning, some silent, but in a tent just beyond the sands, a healer kneels beside a gash torn across a soldier's leg. No antibiotics, no antiseptics, and yet, the healer knows exactly what to do. He dips into a jar of honey. Golden, thick, and sweet honey wasn't just a treat. It was a miracle of nature. The Egyptians believed it had divine properties, and they weren't wrong. We know now that honey is naturally antibacterial, drawing moisture out of wounds, killing microbes, and forming a protective barrier. That it was their natural shield against infection. Centuries before germs had a name, ancient papyri, Egypt's early medical scrolls, describe honey being used to pack open wounds, soothe burns, and treat infections. They mixed it with animal fat, crushed herbs, or even moldy bread. Yes, mold. The very thing we toss from our cupboards today was once a treasured tool. In Egypt and later in ancient China and Greece, healers observed that moldy bread placed on wounds sometimes helped them heal faster. They didn't know why. They didn't need to. It worked. And that was enough. We know now that some of those molds, like penicillium, would one day lead to the creation of antibiotics like penicillin. But long before laboratories and microscopes, ancient doctors learned by watching, by remembering, by listening to the wound as it healed. In the sands of Mesopotamia, clay tablets tell of salves made from resin, bark, and crushed insects. They blended turpentine from pine trees, known even then to fight rot, with ashes and goat fat, creating paste for infected cuts and sores. Odd, but practical. And then there were remedies, less charming. Take, for example, crocodile dung. Yes, you heard that right. In ancient Egypt and parts of early Africa, dried crocodile dung was believed to have protective and healing properties. It was mixed into creams, and sometimes even used brace yourself as a form of birth control. Its texture made it ideal for creating a seal, and its foul scent was perhaps thought to drive evil spirits or suitors away. To the modern mind, it sounds absurd, but in their world, what smelled terrible might have been a shield against invisible demons, against unseen causes of fever, sickness, or infection. Imagine, for a moment, lying in a quiet stone room, a healer grinding herbs with a stone mortar, the scent of earth and spice in the air. They dip a cloth into a warm, sticky salve and press it gently onto your skin. The pain eases not just from the treatment, but from the care itself. You are not alone. You are being tended to. In Greece, Hippocrates praised the use of vinegar, wine, and herbal infusions to clean wounds. In Rome, physicians boiled rose oil, mixed it with copper oxide, and used it to seal sword cuts. Their treatments were strange by today's standards, but effective, enough that some ingredients like honey are still used in modern hospitals for treating burns and diabetic ulcers. And then there was myrrh, the same resin offered to kings and gods. It wasn't just perfume, it was medicine. Myrrh was rubbed on wounds, burns, and sores. It was antiseptic, comforting, familiar. Its scent lingered in temples, in tombs, and in healing chambers. The ancient world believed that the earth itself provided what was needed. Wounds were not just physical, they were spiritual. So healers didn't just treat, they invoked, they chanted, they comforted. A bandage was tied not just with cloth, but with intention. And so, as you lie here in your quiet room, listening to the soft rhythm of your breath, know that once, long ago, healing was done by hand and heart. By moonlight and fire, elight. With honey, with herbs, even with things we now find strange. There's something soothing in that thought, that long before science gave us answers, the human spirit found ways to care. To try, to hope. Let that hope settle into your chest like warm tea. Let your thoughts slow, like a jar of honey tipped gently sideways. Slow, golden, sweet. The fire dims, the past grows deeper, and there are many more odd, sleepy tales ahead. The air is still now, like the hush before a gentle rain. You are wrapped in silence, resting at the edge of time, where the distant past softens into dream. Tonight, we explore the salves and potions of old, where healers reach not for pills, but for petals, for honey, even for rot. Strange as it may sound, these odd remedies held the hope of healing. Close your eyes, and let the world grow dim, as we step inside the dusty apothecaries of ancient medicine. Main story. Approximately 900 words picture a battlefield in ancient Egypt. The clash of bronze is over, and night has fallen. The wounded lie still, some moaning, some silent, but in a tent just beyond the sands, a healer kneels beside a gash torn across a soldier's leg. No antibiotics, no antiseptics, and yet the healer knows exactly what to do. He dips into a jar of honey. Golden, thick, and sweet honey wasn't just a treat. It was a miracle of nature. The Egyptians believed it had divine properties, and they weren't wrong. We know now that honey is naturally antibacterial, drawing moisture out of wounds, killing microbes, and forming a protective barrier. It was their natural shield against infection. Centuries before germs had a name, ancient papyri, Egypt's early medical scrolls, describe honey being used to pack open wounds, soothe burns, and treat eye infections. They mixed it with animal fat, crushed herbs, or even moldy bread. Yes, mold. The very thing we toss from our cupboards today was once a treasured tool. In Egypt and later in ancient China and Greece, healers observed that moldy bread placed on wounds sometimes helped them heal faster. They didn't know why. They didn't need to. It worked. And that was enough. We know now that some of those molds, like penicillium, would one day lead to the creation of antibiotics like penicillin. But long before laboratories and microscopes, ancient doctors learned by watching, by remembering, by listening to the wound as it healed. In the sands of Mesopotamia, clay tablets tell of salves made from resin, bark, and crushed insects. They blended turpentine from pine trees, known even then to fight rot, with ashes and goat fat, creating paste for infected cuts and sores. Odd, but practical. And then there were remedies, less charming. Take, for example, crocodile dung. Yes, you heard that right. In ancient Egypt and parts of early Africa, dried crocodile dung was believed to have protective and healing properties. It was mixed into creams and sometimes even used brace yourself as a form of birth control. Its texture made it ideal for creating a seal, and its foul scent was perhaps thought to drive evil spirits or suitors away. To the modern mind, it sounds absurd, but in their world, what smelled terrible might have been a shield against invisible demons, against unseen causes of fever, sickness, or infection. Imagine, for a moment, lying in a quiet stone room, a healer grinding herbs with a stone mortar, the scent of earth and spice in the air. They dip a cloth into a warm, sticky salve and press it gently onto your skin. The pain eases not just from the treatment, but from the care itself. You are not alone. You are being tended to. In Greece, Hippocrates praised the use of vinegar, wine, and herbal infusions to clean wounds. In Rome, physicians boiled rose oil, mixed it with copper oxide, and used it to seal sword cuts. Their treatments were strange by today's standards, but effective, enough that some ingredients like honey are still used in modern hospitals for treating burns and diabetic ulcers. And then there was myrrh, the same resin offered to kings and gods. It wasn't just perfume, it was medicine. Myrrh was rubbed on wounds, burns, and sores. It was antiseptic, comforting, familiar. Its scent lingered in temples, in tombs, and in healing chambers. The ancient world believed that the earth itself provided what was needed. Wounds were not just physical, they were spiritual. So healers didn't just treat, they invoked. They chanted, they comforted. A bandage was tied not just with cloth, but with intention. And so, as you lie here in your quiet room, listening to the soft rhythm of your breath, know that once, long ago, healing was done by hand and heart. By moonlight and fire, elight. With honey, with herbs, even with things we now find strange. There's something soothing in that thought, that long before science gave us answers, the human spirit found ways to care. To try, to hope. Let that hope settle into your chest like warm tea. Let your thoughts slow, like a jar of honey tipped gently sideways. Slow, golden, sweet. The fire dims, the past grows deeper, and there are many more odd, sleepy tales ahead. Asterisks settle in, deeper now. Let your muscles loosen and your thoughts drift like feathers on still water. You are safe here, wrapped in quiet and warmed by time. Tonight, we enter a sacred and secret part of ancient medicine, the care of women, in a world where understanding was limited and imagination filled in the gaps, where wombs were wild and remedies were strange. Let's wander into the forgotten halls of female healing where smoke, spales, and toads once ruled. Main story. Approximately 900 words in the ancient world, the female body was seen as mysterious, beautiful, powerful, and slightly dangerous, and where mystery lives, so too does myth. Among the strangest beliefs of old was the idea of the wandering womb. In ancient Egypt, Greece, and even into the Middle Ages, it was believed that a woman's womb could travel floating through the body, like a restless spirit. If a woman became ill, dizzy, anxious, mute, or melancholic, healers blamed the womb. They imagined it had dislodged itself and was drifting upward, pressing on her lungs or her heart. The cure. Fragrance. Healers would wave sweet-smelling herbs under the woman's nose to entice the womb back down, and at the same time, they'd burn foul-smelling rags near her lower body to repel it, like coaxing a stubborn cat from a tree. With lavender and smoke. It sounds absurd now, and yet, this belief lasted for centuries. Even Hippocrates, the father of medicine, wrote about it. And Galen, his Roman successor, echoed the same strange remedy. Perfume above, stench below. But female health was not treated only with scent. Sometimes, with toads. Yes. In ancient Babylon and parts of rural Europe, the dried bodies of toads were used as fertility charms or to relieve menstrual pain. A woman might wear a toad in a pouch around her neck, or stranger still place it against the skin of her belly. The logic. The toad was a creature of transformation, wet and earthy, hidden and mysterious. It represented life and magic. And when placed upon the body, it was thought to absorb illness or encourage fertility. Another odd remedy. Fumigation of the womb. In ancient Greece, women were seated over pots of smoldering herbs. This wasn't just for comfort, it was believed to open the womb, cleanse the body, and restore harmony. The herbs varied: myrrh, frankincense, crushed garlic, and sometimes even mercury. Mercury, liquid metal, was once thought to chase away spirits and cool the blood. We know now how dangerous it is, but then, its shimmer was seductive, its mystery intoxicating. And in medieval Europe, if a woman suffered from what they called hysteria, a word rooted in the Greek hystera, meaning womb, she might be treated with a compress of rose water and goose fat, or even singing bowls placed on the abdomen to calm the uterus with sound. There were, of course, more practical treatments. In Ayurvedic medicine from India, herbs like ashoka, shatavari, and aloe were used for regulating cycles and easing childbirth. These remedies were gentle, herbal, natural, and many are still used today. But other cultures lean mystical. In ancient China, female healers passed down moon manuals, secret scrolls filled with poems, prayers, and instructions for treating the cycle of life. A woman might drink pearl dust in tea, or apply jade eggs to her body to restore balance between yin and yang. And then there were the protective charms. In ancient Mesopotamia, women wore amulets carved with the names of goddesses Ishtar, Ninhursag to guard them. Through childbirth, a laboring woman might lie surrounded by statues, herbs, and firelight, her pain accompanied by whispered prayers and sacred rhythms. There's something deeply touching in that. A belief that birth and healing are spiritual acts, not just physical ones. Of course, not all remedies were kind. Some involved poisons, like lead and arsenic, given in small doses to balance the female temperament. Others included binding the body, using pressure to realign the womb, often painful, often misguided, but behind it all was a common thread, a desire to understand, something too complex for the medicine of the time, a longing to ease suffering. Even if the methods seem strange today, close your eyes and imagine that ancient room. A woman lies back, tired and aching. Her mother burns herbs nearby. The midwife chants softly. The scent of myrrh floats in the air. Outside, the moon hangs low watching, waiting. They didn't have scans or pills, but they had touch, warm cloth, a whispered prayer, a hand held tightly through the storm of birth. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. So breathe slowly now. Let the stories settle. Let the incense of memory curl around you like soft smoke. The womb no longer wanders. The night grows still, and we move gently forward to the next strange whisper of healing. Breathe in, slowly, as if the air itself has been steeped in warm tea and old stories. Tonight, we move from the womb to the mouth to teeth, those tiny bones we carry with us every day. But long before toothpaste and dentists, the care of teeth was far stranger, and somehow more intimate. So let yourself drift into a world where hygiene was holy, and where cleaning your mouth sometimes meant using the unexpected. Main story. Approximately 900 words in the soft light of ancient Rome. A woman dips a cloth into a golden cup. The liquid inside is not wine, not water, but urine. Yes, urine. To us, it may sound unpleasant and thinkable even, but to the Romans, it was a prized ingredient in dental hygiene. Why? Because aged urine contains ammonia, a natural bleaching agent. It helped whiten the teeth, fight infection, and freshen breath, at least, according to the standards of the day. Urine was so widely used that importing it became a trade, and at one point, it was taxed by the Roman Empire. The wealthy would purchase bottles of Portuguese urine, considered the finest for mouth rinsing. To use it was not considered shameful, quite the opposite. It was a mark of care, of attention, of status. But Rome was not alone in its curious care of the mouth. In ancient Egypt, a mixture of burnt eggshells, crushed ox hooves, pumice stone, and ash was blended into a powder and rubbed onto the teeth using frayed sticks. It was gritty, rough like brushing with sand, but it cleaned, and cleanliness was sacred. Toothpicks carved from bone were common. So were chewing sticks, thin twigs from specific trees, like neem in India, or Salvadora persica in Arabia, trees known for their natural antibacterial properties. Even today, those chewing sticks survive in some cultures, not because of tradition alone, but because they worked. In ancient Greece, Hippocrates recommended brushing with vinegar and ash. The vinegar broke down plaque, while the ash acted as an abrasive, and a touch of honey could soothe the gums. There's something poetic about it. Using fire's remains ash to clean, using what was once burned to purify what remains. But not all treatments were so gentle. In some parts of the ancient Middle East, dentists used metal wires to bind loose teeth, creating primitive braces. They drilled into decaying teeth and filled them with paste made from resin and crushed bone. These early fillings were often more painful than helpful. But again, They were driven by hope. In China, ancient texts describe treating toothaches with acupuncture and moxibustion, burning herbs near the skin to draw out pain. If the pain persisted, a dentist might apply arsenic paste to numb the area. Dangerous, yes, but effective in small amounts. Some healers believed tooth pain came from tiny worms that burrowed into the enamel. They couldn't see bacteria, but they observed the decay, the holes, the pain. So they imagined worms, and to fight them, they prescribed mouth rinses made of charcoal, salt, garlic, and even crushed mouse skulls. Yes, mouse skulls. The logic that mice, with their sharp and ever-growing teeth, held some mystical control over oral health. By consuming their powdered bones, one might speak their power into their own jaw. Meanwhile, in Viking Scandinavia, warriors filed their teeth into sharp points, sometimes filling the grooves with colored resins, not for health but for intimidation. Still, these warriors had their own dental rituals, chewing birch bark, rinsing with warm mead, and using bear fat as a gum salve. And in South America, the Maya practiced intricate dental inlays. They drilled into the front teeth and inserted jade, turquoise, or hematite not for healing, but for beauty. Yet, they used natural antiseptics like tree sap and chili paste to numb the pain and prevent infection. In every corner of the world, ancient people found ways to clean, to soothe, to preserve. With fire, with stone, with spit. With strange ingredients we'd never think to use today. But perhaps the most touching part is how much they tried. A mother carefully scraping her child's teeth with a feather, a healer brewing a potion from mint and salt and myrrh, a traveler chewing bitter root to keep his mouth fresh on the road. They didn't know about enamel or gingivitis, but they knew pain, and they knew how good it felt to be clean. So now, as you lie back, your jaw relaxed, your breath slow, picture yourself in one of those ancient rooms, the scent of cloves and warm herbs in the air, a silver bowl of water, a gentle hand washing your mouth with oils. No buzzing drills, no needles. Just quiet, care, ritual. Let your thoughts be rinsed. Let the strange ingredients fall away, and in their place, let peace settle into your bones, as smooth and clean as polished ivory. You are safe. The past is soft. And your journey into forgotten medicine continues. Gently. Asterisk. Let the breath soften now. In, through your nose, and out, slow and warm. Tonight, we follow the breath, that quiet companion of every waking and dreaming moment. We step into a world where struggling to breathe was met not with inhalers, but with incense, animal organs, and ancient air rituals, where every gasp was sacred, and every healer listened to the lungs like they were listening to the wind. Main story. Approximately 900 words. The human breath, so quiet, so constant, was once one of the greatest mysteries. To breathe well was to live well. To wheeze, to gasp, to cough. These were signs that something had gone deeply wrong. And so, in the distant past, people sought to fix the breath not with technology, but with smoke. With chants, and sometimes with goat lungs. In ancient Egypt, texts like the Ebers Papyrus describe treatments for shortness of breath and wind diseases. Healers would crush herbs like juniper, frankincense, and honey, mix them with animal fat, and burn them in small pots. The patient would breathe in the scented smoke, hoping it would soothe the lungs and clear the airways. In severe cases, they'd prescribe dried organs from animals believed to have strong breath. Goat lung powder, when ingested or burned, was thought to transfer the strength of the goat's breathing to the human body. There's something oddly comforting in that belief that the breath of another creature could help restore your own. In India's Ayurvedic medicine, healers treated asthma with a warm drink called Kanakari Greedle blend of ghee, clarified butter, black pepper, long pepper, and herbs known to open the lungs. Patients were also told to breathe in steam infused with camphor or clove, sometimes mixed with a few drops of mustard oil, a deep, fragrant warmth designed to melt away the tightness. Ayurveda viewed breath as part of prana, the life force. To struggle with breath was to struggle with life itself. So treatments weren't only physical. They were spiritual, a ritual of restoration. In ancient Greece, Hippocrates recommended long walks near pine forests, believing the resinous air was healing. And in places like Delphi, patients were sent to temples where priests would whisper sacred hymns, hoping the words themselves could calm the breathing. Music was a medicine, whispers were medicine. Silence, too. The Romans had more practical ideas. They brewed potions of wine and crushed wild celery, and suggested sleeping upright with pillows to ease nighttime breathlessness. Pliny the Elder wrote of burning wild thyme and breathing its smoke to expel tightness of the chest. Even today, thyme remains a natural expectorant in herbal teas. And then, there were more extreme methods. In medieval Europe, those with lung troubles were sometimes told to inhale the smoke of burned hedgehog lungs, or to eat a stew made from the heart of a fox. Animals believed to have strong wines. A sick child might be made to sleep with a pouch of herbs and garlic around the neck, or with a carved stone pressed against the chest to draw out the evil vapors. Other treatments included bloodletting at the shoulder or neck, based on the idea that removing some blood would relieve pressure on the lungs. Sometimes the patient would be placed in a steam tent, surrounded by boiling herbs, what we'd now call a herbal sauna. In China, ancient texts describe the practice of qigong breathing exercises, paired with herbal medicine and acupuncture. A patient might perform slow movements in the early morning, mist, each motion aligned with the rhythm of breath, designed to strengthen the lungs and balance the body's energies. Their physicians believed the lungs were connected to grief, that sadness, when unspoken, could settle into the chest and harden like stone. So part of the healing was emotional, releasing sorrow with breath. Even the Aztecs treated breathing ailments with plants like epazote and copal, burned in small clay bowls. The smoke was waved toward the patient with feathers, while prayers were whispered to the gods of air and wind. And in the Arctic, Inuit healers sang directly into the mouths of those who couldn't breathe well, not as superstition, but as a gift of rhythm, a sound to follow. When breath had lost its way. So many cultures, so many cures, some soothing, some startling, but all born from a single truth, that to breathe freely is a kind of miracle. Close your eyes now. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. You are breathing easily here in a time of safety. No goat lungs, no burning herbs, just the quiet rhythm of your own lungs doing what they've always done. And yet, somewhere deep inside, the ancient part of you still remembers the forest air, the whispered songs, the warm steam curling upward in an old healer's hut. Let that memory hold you now. A breath of comfort, a breath of peace. As we drift onward through the long night of history. Asterisk. Sleep comes easier when you don't chase it. So let go now of your thoughts, of your lists, of your body's leftover tension. Sink into the hush of history, where ancient hands once crafted dreams from herbs, minerals, and whispers. Before white noise machines and melatonin, there were snakes, soft stones, and strange potions made to draw the mind down into sleep. Let us wander there gently. Main story. Approximately 900 words long before sleep apps and bedtime podcasts, people struggled with the same thing you do now. How to fall asleep. How to stay asleep. How to silence the noise within the mind. In the ancient world, sleep was seen not just as rest, but as a spiritual journey. And to prepare for that journey, healers and priests designed rituals, some soothing, others strange. In ancient Greece, the god Hypnos ruled sleep. Temples dedicated to him offered soft mats, warm oils, and soft chanting. By priestesses, those who couldn't sleep were brought in at twilight and bathed in warm water mixed with herbs, lavender, marjoram, and poppy flower. Once relaxed, the patient was guided into a dream incubation room, a dark, quiet chamber beneath the temple. There, lying still, they waited for healing visions to arrive in their sleep, if they could sleep. And when they couldn't, remedies were offered. The most common, a tea made from opium poppy seeds, mixed with honey and wine, not strong enough to cause visions, just enough to nudge the body downward. The Egyptians, too, had their sleep secrets. They made small amulets shaped like snakes, which they placed under pillows. The snake symbolized renewal, its coiled body a symbol of rest and rebirth. They believed that by sleeping near a snake, or an image of one, your soul would shed its weariness like old skin, and alongside the snake came the stone, sleep stones. They were called usually amethyst, jade, or moonstone, were tucked beneath the bed or tied to the wrist. Some were engraved with spells. Others were simply warm from touch. The idea wasn't just magic, it was Veda, small anchor to hold the body still as the soul drifted. In ancient India, sleep was governed by the dashas, particularly Vata, the energy of movement. When Vata was out of balance, the mind became restless. To settle it, Ayurvedic healers prescribed warm milk with nutmeg, or baths steeped in tulsi, holy basil, and sandalwood. The smell alone was enough to coax many into dreams. Breathing rituals were also used. Slow, rhythmic nostril breathing, what we now call alternate nostril breath, was practiced under the stars to reset the nervous system. But sometimes, rest was chased with stranger tools. In medieval Europe, a popular sleep charm involved placing a dried bat's heart beneath your pillow. It was believed to draw away nightmares and trap bad spirits in the chamber before they could touch your dreams. Not all treatments were so dark. In Persia, physicians mixed rosewater and almond oil and massaged it into the feet of insomniacs. The pressure on the soles was thought to send signals to the mind. It's time to rest. And in China's Han Dynasty, scrolls described a remedy of lotus seeds, barley, and licorice root, steeped and served warm thus before bed. The taste was gentle. The effect, subtle. No grogginess, no pain, just sleep. The Aztecs brewed a powerful tea from the Camellia zacatici plant, known as the dream herb. It didn't just promote sleep, it encouraged vivid dreams, used for spiritual guidance and inner clarity. And in Japan, samurai were known to carry small camphor-infused wooden charms pressed to the forehead before sleep. Camphor cooled the skin, but also the mind, a drifting scent that softened thoughts into stillness. Some remedies were poetic. Some primitive. Some involved prayers sung by mothers beside a fire, their voices slow and soft as falling ash. Imagine it now. A small room, a cup of warm herbs cooling on a wooden table, the scent of cloves in the air, a healer's fingers brushing your forehead with oil. The snake charm beneath your pillow, the stone in your palm, and outside, the hush of a world slipping into night. You are no longer in your body. You are floating in the old world's dream. No screens. No clocks. Just the rhythm of breath, the pulse of forgotten rituals. They believed sleep was sacred. And maybe it still is. So let the poppy seed tea cool in your imagined hands. Let the sound of ancient chanting hum just beneath your thoughts, the kind of sound that doesn't need to be understood, only felt. You're not just falling asleep. You're stepping into a temple of dreams, where every sigh, every stillness, every strange object was placed to guide you here. To this moment. To this breath. To this rest. Sleep now. The ancients would be proud. Let your thoughts soften. Let your mind stretch like a cat in a sunbeam. No rush, no tension, no direction. Tonight, we wander into the most delicate room of all, not a chamber of bones or breath, but of the mind itself. For centuries, madness and melancholy were misunderstood, and yet still, humanity tried to soothe the storm. With music, with laughter, with stillness and strange rituals. Come. Let's drift together into the quiet corners where ancient minds sought peace. Main story. Approximately 900 words before psychology. Before psychiatry, before the brain was mapped with machines, the mind was treated with music and myths. In ancient Mesopotamia, madness was seen as the work of invisible spirits, restless, hungry, or offended. When someone behaved strangely, it was said they had been touched by a god or possessed by a wine demon. The cure A ritual cleansing. Priests would lead the afflicted person to a river at dawn. There, they'd wash them in cool water, whispering chants to draw the spirit out. Amulets of lapis lazuli were hung around the neck for protection. And afterward, the patient was brought to sit quietly by a fire, to dry, to rest, to return. In ancient Egypt, the line between spiritual and mental illness was blurred. A person struggling with grief, hearing voices, or lost in their thoughts, wasn't isolated. They were brought to temples of healing called houses of life. Inside, physicians known as scribes of the house of God would prescribe a combination of aromatherapy, music, dreams, and spoken prayer. They believed the mind responded to rhythm, and so music was a form of medicine. Flutes, harps, and soft drums echoed through the corridors not to entertain, but to retune the soul. In India, Ayurvedic doctors saw the mind as ruled by the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. When tamas, darkness, confusion took over, the mind became clouded. The cure was not force, but clarity. Herbs like Brahmi and Shank Pushpi, sacred chanting, and morning sunlight were used to cleanse the mental fog. The most severe cases were given nature walks in gardens, slow meals, gentle touch, and time. So simple, and so effective. In Greece, philosophers like Plato and Pythagoras believed the mind could be shaken back into balance by the right vibrations. They wrote about music therapy, choosing different instruments and melodies for different moods. Flute for melancholy, a lyre for fear, a drum for sluggishness. But perhaps the most curious treatments came later. In the Roman Empire, physicians began experimenting with laughter as medicine. Tragedy was illness. Comedy was cure. Some hospitals employed jesters, not for entertainment, but for therapy. The patient would be brought to a shaded courtyard, where actors performed silly skits, slapstick routines, and even sang awkward songs. The goal wasn't joy. It was disruption to break the spiral of sadness with surprise and silliness. And when laughter didn't work, they used silence. In Buddhist monasteries of ancient China and Tibet, monks suffering from what we might now call depression or anxiety were given silence fast days, even weeks, of no speech. They would sit facing a wall, wrapped in heavy robes, breathing slowly. No stimulation, no conversation. Just stillness. Until the chaos quieted. Sometimes, the mind doesn't need answers. It just needs space. In medieval Islamic hospitals, among the first to treat mental illness with dignity, rooms were filled with scented water, fountains, gardens, and soft instrumental music. Patients were spoken to with kindness. Doctors wrote about the healing power of compassion. Centuries before modern therapy echoed the same. And then there were the darker methods. Bloodletting, cold baths, exorcisms. But even among those, a few voices stood out, calling for calm instead of cruelty. The Persian physician Avicenna, in his 11th century medical encyclopedia, wrote that those suffering mentally should not be restrained or punished. They should be listened to. Loved. Held. Imagine that, a patient, frightened and confused, lying beneath a fig tree. A doctor sits nearby, playing a slow tune on a reed pipe. The sky shifts from gold to purple. And for just a moment, the storm inside softens. That's what they tried to do. To reach a suffering mind through gentle means. Through beauty. Close your eyes now. Hear the harp. Smell the rosemary and rose oil wafting in through the temple's curtains. Feel the cool marble floor beneath you. Someone is humming a lullaby in a language long forgotten, not to cure you, but to comfort you, because long ago, they believed that sometimes, healing didn't come from within. It came from the world. From connection. From kindness. From sound. And maybe, they were right. So let your thoughts settle. Let them be soothed by flutes and fountains and quiet laughter. You are not broken, you are simply tired, and rest is near. As you sink deeper into your rest, let your thoughts drift like soft clouds passing across the night sky. In the stillness of time, we turn now to one of the oldest and strangest forms of healing known to humankind, the ancient belief that the balance of our very life force, our blood, could be disrupted and only by releasing it could we find harmony, bloodletting, leeches, and blisters, strange practices that once filled rooms with a mix of hope and fear. Tonight, we softly step into that forgotten world, a world where blood was both the enemy and the cure. Main story. Approximately 900 words long ago, when illness was a mystery, healing was often an act of balance and attempt to restore equilibrium where none existed. The ancient world did not know viruses or bacteria. They did not understand infection or the immune system. But they did believe that the body's humors, its internal fluids, needed to be kept in balance for health. These humors, blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile, were the secret to life, and any disruption in their harmony could cause disease. This was the basis of bloodletting, the idea that removing blood from the body would restore balance. The Egyptians, with their precise knowledge of anatomy, used cauterization and blistering, heating metal tools and pressing them against the skin to draw blood to the surface. In the temples of healing, priests would burn tiny spots of skin, creating blisters that would then burst, releasing bad humors. The idea was that blood, once drawn to the surface, could be purified and expelled, leaving the patient feeling restored. In ancient Greece, the physician Hippocrates, father of modern medicine, recognized that the body's fluids played a role in illness, but it was Galen, a Roman physician, who truly solidified the practice of bloodletting. He believed that excess blood could lead to fever, pain, and other ailments. So, he used a lancet, a small, sharp instrument, to make small incisions in the skin, allowing the body to purge itself. Sometimes, leeches would be applied to a patient's skin to suck out the excess blood. The leech, a strange and unsettling creature, was seen as an essential tool in balancing humors. Leeches were carefully placed on the skin, and their steady, rhythmic sucking would draw out blood considered to be the bad or excess humors. It wasn't just used for physical ailments, mental disorders were also treated with bloodletting. The idea was that removing blood could calm the mind, as it restored a healthier flow of the body's energies. In ancient Rome, Galen's teachings dominated for centuries. His methods were so widely adopted that bloodletting became a ritualist standard treatment for nearly every ailment. It was even prescribed for common colds, headaches, and digestive issues, with the belief that releasing blood would cleanse the body and speed up recovery. Even in the Middle Ages, bloodletting remained a popular treatment. In fact, it was considered a necessary part of good health care. Some medieval physicians carried around leeching kits, small, ornate boxes with tools for opening veins and applying leeches. Royal families, too, relied on bloodletting, often calling upon barber surgeons, skilled men who not only cut hair but also performed minor surgeries and treatments. Barber surgeons became specialists in the art of bloodletting, and they were often seen as both healers and performers, able to balance the humors with skill and precision. While bloodletting was widely practiced, it was not without its critics. Some saw it as too dangerous, especially when too much blood was drawn. A famous incident in the 18th century involved George Washington, who, during an illness, was bled repeatedly, ultimately leading to his death. By the time of his death, bloodletting was beginning to lose favor, replaced by more modern approaches to medicine, but the practice lingered for centuries, still considered a tried and true method for maintaining health. The method of cupping, a therapy that involved placing heated cups on the skin, was another popular form of treatment for drawing out bad humors. Practiced in both ancient Egypt and China, cupping involved the use of small glass or bamboo cups, heated and then placed on the skin to create a vacuum. This vacuum would draw blood to the surface. Much like blistering, cupping was believed to improve circulation, clear out toxins, and promote healing. And then there were the more unusual forms of bloodletting. Leeching was a widespread practice across Europe, where medieval and Renaissance healers believed that the more blood a patient lost, the better the healing. Leeches were often kept in special tanks, and their application was seen as an almost mystical act. It was said that the medicinal leech could sense which patient needed its services, and its sucking power would restore the body's harmony. The rise of bloodletting as a medical treatment continued into the 18th century, especially in Europe. Barbers, once the sole practitioners of the art, became highly respected as they refined the practice with more tools and techniques. It was even said that Benjamin Franklin, while in Paris, had a personal physician who advocated for the practice as a means of preventing sickness. As you lay here, comfortable and at ease, think of the ancient rooms where these practices unfolded, the candlelight flickering on stone walls, the quiet whisper of the healer's hands, a cut, a release, a breath. What we now know was once seen as the only path to balance. Bloodletting seems odd now, unnecessary, but there was a time when it was the hopeful answer to all manner of suffering. Slowly, let your thoughts soften. The leeches, the lancets, the stones and cups, they are all distant now. Here, there is only peace, only rest. You're almost there now. The hush of sleep grows heavier with every breath. The mind quiets. The past whispers. Tonight, we explore a chapter that walks gently between life and death, a strange edge where ancient medicine leaned not on herbs or heat, but on rituals of bones, burials, and dreams guided by the dead. Let us wander one last time through forgotten paths where healing didn't mean avoiding death, but listening to it. Main story. Approximately 900 words in the ancient world. Death was not just an end, it was a messenger, a guide, even a healer. When all other remedies failed, people turned to the spirits. To bones. To burial rituals. To the idea that communion with the dead might restore the living. Among the most curious of these beliefs was that illness could come not from inside the body, but from disturbed ancestors or unburied souls. And so, the remedy was not in medicine, but in appeasement. In early Mesopotamia, if someone fell ill with an unexplained sickness, fevers that came and went, strange dreams, seizures, it was often blamed on a restless ghost. A priest would be summoned, who would conduct a ritual of reconciliation with the spirit. Offerings were buried, bone figurines, small cups of wine, bread soaked in honey. Sometimes, the name of the ghost was whispered into a clay bowl, which was then broken and buried, to symbolically end their influence. Healing through burial. In ancient Greece, the cult of Asclepius, god of healing, often involved dream medicine. The sick would journey to Asclepian temples, sacred places of rest and ritual. Once there, they underwent a process called incubation. No food, no noise, no distractions. They fasted, bathed, and slept in stone chambers. It was believed that during this sleep, the god himself or one of the dead physicians in his service would visit in a dream and provide the cure. Upon waking, patients would describe their dreams to the priests, who interpreted them as prescriptions. A vision of a snake might mean a cleansing. A walk through water might mean herbal teas. But always the dead guided the living. In Egypt, bones were sacred. The femurs of mummified priests were ground into powders and used to treat spiritual ailments, not because of the material, but because of the memory held within. To take a part of a once holy man was to absorb his wisdom. His strength. His access to the afterlife. Other times, skulls were placed under beds to ward off nightmares, not morbid trophies, but protectors. Vessels once filled with thought, now filled with purpose. In certain Native American traditions, illness was understood as a sign that the balance between the worlds was broken. A shaman or medicine person would guide the sick through a soul retrieval, a dream state journey, to bring back a part of themselves lost to grief, fear, or trauma. The healer would drum or chant for hours, entering a trance, and then speak with the spirit of the patient's ancestors. From that conversation, healing might come. It wasn't just the body that was being treated. It was the story of the person, their past, their wounds, their place in the universe. In Tibet, sky burials weren't just for honoring the dead. The bones of revered monks were carved into ritual tools, flutes, bells, even medicine bowls. It was believed that these sacred remains carried blessings, that could protect the sick or calm the mind. To drink water from such a bowl was to sip strength from a lineage of wisdom. In parts of sub-Saharan Africa, healers, called diviners, would interpret the remains of animals' bones thrown like dice, skulls studied like books. A single crack in a turtle shell might reveal what the body itself could not say. The patient would never speak their illness aloud. The bones would speak for them, even in medieval Europe. Saint relics, bones, teeth, or pieces of clothing were believed to heal through contact. Pilgrims walked for weeks, even months, to kneel beside a silver-encased finger bone or fragment of cloth. Touch it. Pray. And sometimes the fever broke, the mind cleared. Coincidence? Maybe, but to them it was sacred proof. The dead, they believed, had access to a wider medicine, one that saw past the symptoms, one that whispered through time. And now, you lie still, not afraid. Not hurried. In a place between sleep and dream, where such old thoughts still drift. You can almost hear the rustle of robes on temple floors, the quiet singing from a cave high in the mountains, the rattle of a bone bundle in a healer's hand. The gentle scrape of soil, covering something precious. To protect. To bless. To heal. Not all healing comes from what we see. Some comes from what we feel, what we remember, what we honor. So breathe gently. The ancient dead are not haunting you. They are watching, wishing you rest. You are whole. You are quiet.